with history dating back more than 500 years. Beautiful Quebec City and the fabulous shores of the St. Lawrence River, where 175 riders have come to battle this demanding circuit in the third edition of the UCI World Tour.
Money, that was a very smart thing to do.
Yeah, you can see now he's on Bjorn Lukeman's wheel. Sorensen is with the Omega Pharma rider. Lukeman swings over, but you know, Bruno has just been in the break for a whole lap. He's not going to pull through. He's looking for fresh legs to pull him back up to the 2 leaders. So smart racing by Bruno Langlois, who is now tied with Lucas User on points. They'll be on in the top 3 at the end of the day. We'll just see how it shakes out. They're tied on points. I don't know what the tiebreaker is. We'll go to the tech guide for that. I would suspect to be Bruno with winning a 10-point, more 10-point laps, but we'll see.
Things are edgy now. They're edgy here.
Yeah, you can see there's a group of 20 now off the front of the pack. We got those 3 riders chasing. That's Luke Mintz, a BMC rider, and Bruno. Another Saxo Bank rider. That looks like Nuyens.
Everybody's looking around. They're the 2 leaders coming by. The crowd giving them incredible encouragement now.
Yeah, 1 lap to go, coming up to the bell. We got Omega Pharma. Still have to get the identity of that rider. We have Chris Anker Sorensen of Saxo Bank in 2nd place. We got the 3 chasers with Bruno,
the bell lap,
the BMC rider, and Nick Nuyens now, the Tour of Flanders winner in the past, another Saxo Bank rider. Looks like Bruno's been tailed off. You have to dig deep to get on Nuyens' wheel to stay in contention. We've got 20 or so riders in that chase group, with David Veilleux was in there, I saw, as the main peloton come by, led by Thomas Vogler, Peter Sagan right there. No sign of Hejjedal just yet. Let's look for that blue helmet of the distinctive Garmin Sharp equipment. It's Hausler. I still haven't seen Ryder there, so hopefully the race isn't getting out of hand for Ryder and he can make a move to try to win this race. But up front, looks like Nuyens there, the Saxo Bank rider, trying to get on terms with this breakaway. Again, a lot of pressure on. You see a lot of gaps forming in this field. There's the 5 leaders now. Looks like they've all come back together, the 5 leaders.
No.
That looks like Van Avermaet of BMC, so that's their man for the day. He's definitely putting in a big dig here. As the riders look around, they see that it's not successful, it's not a winning gap, so they're gonna sit up and be swallowed up by this chasing group. Looks like we got a Lamprey rider queuing up for an attack here. Oh, he shuts it down, looks back. Oh, we have our 2 leaders again. That's the Quick Step rider and Chris Anker Sorensen, who was in our break with Bruno, still doing well.
.5 kilometers to go. And if you're a Vogler, if you're Sagan, you got to be thinking about where you're going to be making your move now.
Dries Devenins is the Omega Pharma rider. Very strong rider, punchy style, very similar to Chris Anker Sorensen in their style of riding. So two riders up front. Slight advantage. There's Ryder quite a ways back in the field making the turn, so not looking too good in terms of positioning. He needs to be at the front. There's an attack by David Veilleux, Canadian rider, following the attack on the Lamprey guy.
There's David in the green jersey right now, Team Europe car from Cap Rouge, Quebec.
This is great action. Again, David Veilleux is a man on form. Hopefully he'll have support from his teammates. I see a green helmet, about 5th in line there. That might be Thomas Vauclair. This is the tactic they used to win that Tre Valley Varecine in Italy about 3 weeks ago. So David Veilleux opening up a gap. Looks like a Cofidis rider trying to bridge the gap.
And he's having a hard time doing it too.
Yeah, he's given up even. You can tell he knew it wasn't happening. He gave up the ghost. So Veilleux continuing on his solo breakaway here. Great attacking style. David Veilleux, man on form.
A grimace on his face, but he's given 110%.
Let's see if he can make the connection here to our two leaders. Dries Devenins, the Belgian rider for Team Quickstep. And there's Ryder Hesjedal there, back in the field.
All right, if you're Ryder Hesjedal, what do you do now?
Well, I think his legs aren't quite there today. I think if he had the legs, he'd be up in this scrum of attacking action at the front. So doesn't look good for Ryder. I could be mistaken, but generally, if you want to win this race, you have to be closer to the front at this late stage.
10 kilometers to go in what has been a very exciting race today, with the young Canadian riders giving great accountings of themselves thus far.
Yeah, they've had a great day, whether it's been Sebastian Salas in the first move, Bruno Langlois, Marsh Cooper, Hugo Hull was in the break for Spidertech. So the Canadian riders have shown very well, as Veilleux again closes the gap to two new riders trying to bridge the gap to the two leaders, Devenins and Chris Anker Sorensen. There they are, back on the Grand Allée. Cooperating well together. They need each other. They need to take turns pulling into the wind, give the other rider quite a bit of a rest, try to drop the heart rate. You see just how red Anker Sorensen is. He's putting everything into this effort. As back in the field, there's David Veilleux, there's an Astana rider trying to stir up the action. Still quite a few riders left, and yeah, Ryder is at the very tail end of this field, so I don't think it's a rider's day today, unfortunately. There's Heymar Zubeldia, the Spanish rider from Team Radio Shack, followed by his former teammate Yannick Brakovic of Team Astana, forming up an alliance now. See if they can be more successful in chasing down these two leaders.
Now 9 kilometers to go.
They're on the lone now. They're starting to make their way to the descent of Gilmore. New attack here by the Lotto rider. That could be Jürgen Roland. Get a number on him, but the action is still very heated. Time is running out. This is the last lap, don't forget.
There's Ryder Hesjedal right there. You saw the #1 number.
Yeah, I think that's Jürgen Rollens with the Belgian champ stripes on his sleeve, former Belgian champion. 4th place in Montreal last year, getting led out by Gilbert, but he couldn't come around his teammate.
A little bit of recovery right here.
Hard descent on Gilmore. Last time they're going to do this today. Along the shores of the St. Lawrence on Boulevard Champlain, the two leaders go. Devenins kicks hard. Anker Sorensen has been in the lead a little bit longer than Devenins, so gotta think the onus of this duo is definitely on Devenins now, as the rest of the group making the right turn. So the gap can't be more than 10 seconds.
Now we're under 8K, Gord.
Peter Sagan now at the front of the race, chasing down Jürgen Rollens. Rollens does have a very good turn of speed. Whether he can match a guy like Sagan remains to be seen, but Yannick Brakovic in Astana letting Sagan do some work. He knows that you got to tenderize these sprinters a little bit if you're going to beat them. So putting the onus on the Slovakian champ to do most of the work here, as Chris Anker Sorensen and Dries Devenins still continuing to share the work very well together. You can see the gap. Can't be more than 10-15 seconds to the field. We got one rider in between. That's Jürgen Rollens again from Lotto, assuming an arrow position, trying to get across cleanly as smoothly as possible.
He is smooth on that bike.
He certainly is.
Lampre there.
Lampre now taking up the chase. Maury, I think, is their man for the day. Packs a pretty good sprint at the end of a hard race. But Jürgen Rollens now, this is the story right now, to see if he can bridge the gap to these two leaders. Chris Anker Sorensen, Dries Devenins, forming a very good partnership here along the Boulevard Champlain. The last time, this is a very strategic part now back in the field. Any of the workers left in the race, they're trying to get their team captains to the front of this field. So the pace is automatically going to be very, very high in the main peloton as Jürgen Rollins looks back. Not a good sign. I think the pack is hot on his heels. BMC now driving the front. They have a very fast man in Greg Van Avermaet. As Ryder Hejdahl looks like he's pulled the pin today, folks. That's too bad for the Canadian rider. But he hasn't raced since the Olympics, and you know, his form wasn't so great there, so disappointing for our Canadian fans, but we'll see what he's got in his legs for Montreal.
But no matter what, it's been an extraordinary season, and he's made history.
He certainly has, but in cycling, you're only as good as your last race, so obviously not in some great form. Let's see who this is for Orica Green Edge, number 82. Albacini, that's another Ren. There's Fedrigo. He was second in Montreal last year. So riders now know that they have no chance. They're saving their legs for Montreal. Some big names giving up the ghost here in Quebec City.
Continue to watch for Sagan and Thomas Vogler.
Here's Mirko Selvaggi, the Italian rider on the Vacan Soleil team. Flicks his elbow. Signals for the rider behind him to come past and take his pull, which is a BMC rider. Again, Devin Inns and Anker Sorensen, they have a small gap, but it's probably not going to be enough, especially since they put a lot of effort into this last lap, only to have a few seconds gap on the peloton at the bottom of the hill. Definitely going to be swallowed up here. So the real race, I think, is in behind. As we see number 92, that's Bozic, who is in the challenge sprint. His day is done. Movistar now, front of the peloton. Certainly working for their man, their Portuguese rider, Rui Costa, the winner last year in Montreal.
Under 5K to go.
Bozic stretching, trying to get the kinks out of his legs, but again, back to the front. This is where the race is. This is Devin Inns.
Gord, is there a particular element of terrain you see that this chasers are going to be making a move that strikes out at you?
Well, it's going to be all in the last climb. We're almost to our left turn onto the Côte de la Montagne. It's 3K to the finish. There's 3 ramps. There's 3 steps to the climb. Last year, Gilbert made his winning attack right about at the KOM line, so on the second ramp. The year before, Thomas Vogler actually attacked on the flat part in between the second and the third part of the climb with about 1.5 km to go in front of the Chateau Frontenac and the French consulate. So different places to attack here that has proven successful in years past as we make our left turn. As we have an Omega Pharma rider on the front, his teammate's actually in front, so that's an interesting tactic from Omega Pharma, but that could be Chavanel. It's number 6, that's Daniel Martin, the Irish rider. He's out of it as well for Garmin, so not Garmin's day today. Even though they've done the work for Ryder, they're going to come up empty-handed. I think the onus now is on Fabian Wegman as we have an attack now by Orica Green Edge and BMC. Is that Van Avermaet? Could be.
And look at the power there, Gord.
He's going for it. That's number 21. Yes, indeed, that's Greg Van Avermaet. That's their rider. It's a little earlier than the other winning moves of years past, but he certainly has some good legs. He's going to get a little break here as Leon Sanchez, another pre-race favorite, out of the race. But Van Avermaet should be up front, should have a decent gap. As Simon Gerrans now, the Australian champ for Orica Green Edge, taking up chase. We'll see if they can form an alliance. But looks like Van Avermaet has a good gap. Gerrans is coming. He's got the advantage of the motorbike. Hopefully the motorbike gets out of his way. Yes, he does. Can't give an advantage like that, especially on the downhill, as Gerrans makes his way, claws his way to Van Avermaet's back wheel. This could be welcome or not welcome, depending on how Van Avermaet's feeling, but 2 very strong clients for the victory here. We saw Simon Gerrans win the race of Milan-San Remo this spring. Peter Sagan now taking up chase with the Quebec rider, David Veilleux, hot on his wheel. Here we go. They're going to start the second climb here, the Potasse, Côte de la Potasse, which turns left onto the Glacis, where the KOM line is. Again, Sagan, he's a big favorite. I don't think that he's going to get much help. It's going to be all up to Sagan to neutralize those 2 leaders.
Going to have to do it all himself.
Here it is. Simon Gerrans takes a very strong pull here for Van Avermaet. This is what Van Avermaet needs. He needs a little recovery. I'm going to need a little recovery here soon. This is great action. Here is a Sky Rider taking up chase. That looks like Nordhog. Ryan Roth, the Canadian champ, in behind. The zipper's undone. He's Canadian champ. Going across to Nordhog. That's a great sign for Canadian cycling. As Van Avermaet, Gerrans coming up the glacis to the king of the mountain line for the last time. As we look back, it's Ryan Roth and Kolobnev now, the Russian rider, making a strong attack. Kolobnev was in the winning break of the Olympic Games in Beijing in 2008. We'll see if he can get across to these two leaders. As back and behind, it's detonation in the field. Gerrans goes over the king of the mountain line first, followed by Van Avermaet. Sagan now, big attack.
There's Sagan, and he looks very strong right now. Looks over his shoulder, knows he's got to do it alone.
Kolobnev trying to struggle. You see his mouth wide open, trying to hold on to the Slovakian. He needs to respond. He needs to respect the two leaders.
2.4 kilometers to go. Sagan's brother, incidentally, here riding for the Liquigas team.
It might be too little, too late. These two riders are committed to this winning move here. Gerrans shakes his elbow. Doesn't get the help he wants right away from Van Avermaet. This could spell disaster for these two.
It might allow Sagan to catch him.
If they knew Sagan was this close, I don't think Van Avermaet would hesitate. There he goes. He's going to bridge the gap. It looks like Van Avermaet's finally taking his pull. Kolobnev is struggling to stay with Sagan. As they go up the Jardins, kilometer and a half to go. Van Avermaet, that could be the pull that keeps these two away from Sagan. Here comes Gerrans now following up with a strong pull of his own. They don't want Sagan to catch them. There's no way they want him anywhere near him. Right turn.
Chasers.
Rest of the field now. But this is the real race. Can Sagan make it across? I think the gap is stabilized. Those cooperation up front is definitely resisting the chase of Peter Sagan. Very dramatic images here as they go under the 1K to go at the Château Frontenac.
All right, and this is going to be quite a race. Sagan has made it very, very interesting here. The young Slovakian rider with so much talent.
He's looking back. I don't think he can make it. It's between these two now. Gerrans took a huge pull for Van Avermaet. It's too close to call between those two. They both pack a very good sprint. Not nearly as good as that man, Sagan. But Sagan can't make it. This is very dramatic.
Sagan trying to push a big gear here, but it may not be enough. And there he is.
Van Avermaet refused to pull. This is a dangerous game he's playing, because if Gerrans calls his bluff, that'll allow Sagan to come back. Oh, it's going to be close.
Oh, what a race.
Oh, he's almost there. Van Avermaet playing a very dangerous game. As soon as Gerrans swings over, he's got to hit him, because he doesn't want Sagan to come near. Someone threw a banana peel. That's not going to slip these guys from the finish line here up the Grand Lake through the Port St. Louis for the last time. 300 meters to go.
And now a big chase from the chasers coming up. But look at these guys riding in single file now, making a move, busting it open now.
Van Avermaet taking up the sprint. Gerrans has good cognizance of where the pack is at. He's making his run for the line. Gerrans. Van Avermaet. Looks like 1-2. Simon Gerrans, Orica Green Edge, Australian champ. Van Avermaet second, and Rui Costa takes third place for Movistar as Sagan was swept up right there. He's just crawling across the finish line, but what a great attempt by Sagan to reach these two leaders. But Simon Gerrans comes through with the goods for Orica Green Edge, the Australian champion. What a great race, Peter.
And those guys made it exciting right down to the wire. Gerrans, of course, the 2012 Australian road champion from Melbourne. Actually, his neighbor, Phil Anderson, introduced him to cycling, got him into the sport.
Thumbs up, great ride. Van Avermaet did everything he could to win the race, but it wasn't enough. Here he was the first to kick, but we saw in the sprint challenge, you go too early up this long false flat, it's brutal. And Gerrans swept by for the win. Orica Green Edge, Australian champ, great victor here in Quebec City, the third edition.
Well, I don't simply think you could ask for a better race. Once again, a look back here as they set up for the sprint to the finish line.
Gerrans timed that to perfection, letting Van Avermaet lead out the sprint. took a very calm look over his shoulder, realized that Sagan wasn't coming back, held a few more pedal strokes, and then kicked at the right time to win this race.
And while it was undeniably powerful, that was kind of a silky smooth move he made.
He made it look easy, but for sure he was cranking out some serious watts. But again, hats off to Van Avermaet. He attacked really early on the Côte de la Montagne, laid down the gauntlet. Gerrans did a great job to come across, and we saw the winning break a little further out this year. But these two riders, again, both great sprinters in their own right, but they both had to give a little bit to stay away from Sagan. That was the big story in that last K. They were successful, but only one guy can win the race. Simon Gerrans had the legs, the right timing, and pounced at the right time to win this third edition of the Grand Prix Cycliste de Quebec.
Right, and there is a look at the winner, the happy Simon Gerrans. Of course, he's exhausted from his efforts over 201 kilometers. There are the standings right now, Gord. It was a great day for the Aussie.
Yeah, they gave him a 4-second gap over the pack, and third place Rui Costa. Don't forget Van Avermaet there, a fine second place. Luca Paolini from Katusha in fourth. Slagter of Rabobank. We have our top Canadian, Francois Parisien, in 10th place. That's a fine 10th place among the big boys. Chiolek, Wegman, Vauclair, Ulysses all in front. Great job by the Canadian boys today, but hats off again to our podium, Gerrans, Van Avermaet, and Costa.
And once again, a look back at it, the dramatic finish, and he had to earn this one. Simon Gerrans, Orica, he has got the victory in that national championship jersey of Australia. Another look, and the crowd was so into it here, making the race incredibly compelling. I mean, this race has a great future.
Simon, tell us that end of the race and that exciting finish.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, and it was really down to the wire. I sort of stayed quiet most of the race and really gambled on it being back together for the last lap, and I attacked with everything I had on the last lap and got away with Greg there. We worked well together and just managed to hold the peloton off, so obviously I'm pretty happy.
Did you know that Peter Sagan was coming back to you?
Yeah, I saw Peter. He's just really close behind us, and obviously I know how fast he is, so I kept the brake with Greg moving just to make sure that Peter didn't get back on.
What does mean such a victory for you in a UCI Pro World Tour race?
It's fantastic. It's this is some of the hardest racing on the calendar, and it's fantastic racing here in Quebec. It's an exciting little circuit with a great crowd, great ambience, so I'm really happy to win here.
You start the season winning in Milan-San Remo, now you're winning in Quebec. What is the importance of both victory for you?
Oh, they're both obviously World Tour races, so they're both very important victories. This is always the plan, to start the season out going well and then try and finish off going well also, so far it's all going to plan.
And about this atmosphere around the circuits, all these people, all this crowd cheering and so on, how do you live that day?
The circuit is, it's a tough little circuit, lots of corners, obviously always going up and down, and we started out especially fast today, so that made the race quite difficult. So I think there was a lot of tired guys there at the finish.
What will be the end of the season? Are your ambition for the rest of the season now?
From here, obviously, on to Montreal on Sunday, and then the World Championships and Tour of Lombardy. So still some great racing left.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Gerrans on top of the world, 4 hours, 53.0 for the time. And also a great race for the Canadian Parisien.